Hi guys! Just for context, we're in a parking lot of a froyo shop. Represent. We're not sponsored. Please sponsor me.
We should.
Yeah. On a sadder note, guess what today's topic is?
Religion. You can guess why.
Because the news, shootings, and people just being racist and
49 people were killed in Christchurch,
Yep.
New Zealand, and 48 other people were injured, bringing the casualty count to 97, which is New Zealand's worst mass shooting in history.
Which is strange, to me at least, because New Zealand's not one of those countries I hear about with, like, mass shootings.
No, New Zealand has gun laws.
See, we have those too, but there are so many more loopholes that we have. Unless you live in Connecticut, because, you know, for some reason, every state has to go through some horrible event for it to actually enact good gun laws.
Ours being
Sandy
Sandy Hook,
Hook.
Newtown. But, so, the target of New Zealand's mass shooting was a mosque, which, for those who aren't familiar, is the place of worship for the Islam religion. The practicing people are called Muslims. It is basically the equivalent of a church or a temple to Christians and Jewish people. And it was a racially motivated attack, as the shooters, there were more than one, because it happened at two mosques simultaneously.
Mhm.
They actually emailed the Prime Minister their 87-page white supremacy-fueled manifesto minutes before the shooting started. And they posted videos of it to social media.
And, so, like, that, like, just shows how, like, especially also in, like, Myanmar, how, like, social media, like, through Facebook, how, like, the army over there was like, we're gonna target the Muslim minority. And they posted all of that onto Facebook.
And I know social media isn't the topic right now, but in recent history, it's actually done a lot in, like, violent political movements. If you look at the revolution in Turkey, it was a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
There was a staged military coup,
Yeah.
and the president of Turkey he was on a plane when it happened,
Yep.
and he landed at the airport and basically live streamed to YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, basically addressing the entire Turkish population. He was like, you elected me, I am your president, I was elected by the people, you have to stand up to the military and, like, you know, save me, pretty much, because he was holed up in an airport. And they did. The people gathered together and overpowered the military and, like, defeated the coup. So just the role of social media in these, like, mass violent effects and just the huge influence it can have is just horribly exemplified.
Yeah, and also with, like,
this weekend's events.
Arab Spring.
Yeah.
Like, that, those are, like the big positive ones where, like, they were always, like, moving for change and, like, for, like, better living and life situations for people. But then there's also, like, the Pulse nightclub, where he was, like, what did he do? Like, declare his allegiance before, like...
I don't even know to what.
I don't even remember.
But his Facebook page had a lot of suspicious anti-LGBT...
His Facebook page was a little weird.
Yeah.
And then the FBI were like, oh, he was on our radar, but, like, we didn't think he would do anything.
And then he did.
Not to completely blame the FBI, but...
I mean, Ruby Ridge, they don't have a lot going for them. So today...
Besides breaking the college scandal.
Oh, true. But that's another story.
For another day.
For another episode. But so, back to religion. So Christine and I are both in AP, Comparative Government, and we just finished our unit on Iran, and we studied the Islam religion a lot because church and state are not as separated there as they are here. And I think, back to social media, in movies and just online in general, Muslim people are often painted as terrorists and just bad people in general and, like, violent, but that's just one extremist group or a few. Like, we hear about the Taliban and about ISIS and, like, extreme jihadi groups, and we automatically apply those to the rest of an entire population.
Yes.
There are 2 billion Muslim people on the planet.
I don't know the number.
Like, if they were all terrorists, we would all be dead. Like, it affects people's everyday lives. Like, every week there's a new video on social media of some white lady in a grocery store screaming, like, racial slurs at Muslim people.
Yep. And the thing about that is just, especially when we, like, learned about this religion, it was just, like, how, like, this religion stemmed from this, like, one similar religion, where, like, all the other religions had, like, this one book and this one god, and they were all, like, considered, like, even in harmony. So, like, we think of gerrymandering as, like, this negative term, but, like, in Iran, they're, like, gerrymandered seats so that the minority, like, minority religious groups have, like, at least a seat in their council.
Yeah, in the council.
And for them, it's, like, there's still representation in that country, even though it's, like, predominantly Muslim.
And now you see the first few Muslim congresswomen in the U.S. getting just trashed online. On Twitter, they're like, go back to your country, you're a terrorist. Like, they're infiltrating the Washington. And
here's the thing, and I do think she has said some questionable things. Like, I don't agree with everything she says, but, like, if we're gonna uphold her to that type of standard, what about every single person before that? Like, Stephen King was just removed from all of his committees.
Stephen
King.
You know, our president, who has said some horrible things about women.
Like, if you're gonna keep that standard for her, I want that standard for everyone.
And that's not even on a basis of whether or not you support her or our president or whoever it may be. It's just, you have to look at the factual way we hold these people who lead us, or who are supposed to lead us, like, to their standards, to what their job is.
And the thing about leadership is that it's very, very crucial on what they say. Like, I will not blame President Trump for saying things and then, like, having a negative impact in other parts of the world. But when he accepted that leadership position, when he decided to run for president, he should have known that. His words have so many consequences around the world. When he says fake news, that, like, leads other people in other countries to, like, target journalists and say, you guys are fake news, so we are shutting you down. That becomes, like, this rhetoric of just, like, falsehoods becomes the norm. Like, when did we ever have, like, this thing where, like, our most credible newspapers were discredited because they weren't as nice to a person? I mean, I don't think the New York Times were ever that nice to President Obama either.
Yeah.
Like, he's done some, like, dumb things too, and they weren't so kind about it.
The way the news even just has a role in politics in general, even outside of religion, is crazy. Like, you think about when the Washington Post broke the news about the Vietnam War all those years ago, and it was a huge scandal.
Or when Watergate broke by Bob Woodward.
Good job, Nixon. But that was a time when the press was so highly credited, and, you know, they were not politically aligned, they were seeking justice, and, like, that was what originally made me want to study journalism, like, after I leave high school. But now, with all the way that people will trash news sites for not reporting without bias, and, you know, they're right about it. Like, you look at, take Fox News and CNN. Trump tweets something, you're gonna get 2 completely different reports, and, like, that's just not the way journalism should be. That's not what journalism was founded on. And I think that directly plays into how people are portrayed in the media based on their religion.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the Pulse shooting was done by a white man, and CNN, you know, was like, here's a mass murderer, pretty much. And Fox News was like, this is a mentally ill white man.
See, you can't claim temporary insanity unless you're white.
Not in America, at least.
It's true.
But religion has come up so much in the news recently because of immigration policy changes and border scandals and just the...
Because immigrants are going to take over America and you should all be scared.
Well, her parents were
My
immigrants.
parents.
My grandma was an immigrant. She came through Ellis Island. I think it's... this is so ridiculous. How I know this is like kind of a stereotype, but like white people are obsessed with like Ancestry and 23andMe.
Oh
like,
my god.
Tests, like those things where you like put your saliva in, you send it off, and they give you your like
You know that
genetic heritage.
Bill Gates started that?
Well, yeah, I did know that. But how can you at the same time order a test to find out exactly what type of family or what type of immigrant your family was, and at the same time tell immigrants to go back to their country because you don't want them here because you're racist? Like, the hypocrisy.
Unless you're 100% Native American, I don't want to hear it.
Exactly.
I really don't want to hear it.
But it's just the hypocrisy in the way that people are treated based on their religion or race is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really time we start holding white people, because we are most often the perpetrators. Like, it's time we be held accountable.
Okay, I'm gonna throw a wrench in this. Is reverse racism real?
No, because we deserve it.
Oh my god. Okay,
here's
no!
Here's the thing. A person of color can say racially motivated things to a white person,
Okay.
and it will be, offensive.
Mm-hmm.
But racism against people of color stems from years of systematic torture, oppression, and genocide that white people just haven't experienced, except for, like, by a plague. Like, we can't... which doesn't count. I'm in Miss Staley's cultural anthro class.
Ugh.
And we
Love her.
talked recently about how... I've really just lost my train of thought. What was I just talking about?
Miss Daly,
No,
cultural
before that. What did I say?
racism.
How reverse racism. Right. We were talking about origins.
Mm.
And so you can edit that out, right?
Totally.
So in Miss Daly's cultural anthro class, we were learning about how, white people, we know where we came from. We know that we came over from Europe, and we can all trace our lineage back. Black people and other people of color, but really specifically black people who have ancestors who were enslaved, they don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea where they came from, because white people came and stole them from their homeland. And we didn't steal slaves. We stole teachers and mothers and fathers and intelligent people and doctors. Like, I feel like we all too often think that slavery was just us taking these random uneducated people from Africa, but we weren't. That's not what slavery was. We were taking an entire population of intelligent people with feelings and emotions and jobs and families, and we just put them in chains and thought it was okay. And just the lasting effects of that on the black population is, permanent. And so we can't be offended if they call us a cracker. Like, we can't be offended when black people are, kind of taking back their place in the world, like, and being confident. Like, how is that? How can we be hurt by that if they say, like, if they just, even, yeah. I've seen people get offended for being called a white person, like it was a slur. And then freely...
That's why they added Caucasian on their SATs. Not a joke. I'm serious.
Wow.
Because...
it's just like, we haven't experienced...
Caucasian.
We haven't experienced that type of horror from the hands of another race, like, to have the right to be justly offended.
And, like, that's not even just with, like...
on a general level. Like, if someone says, like, I don't know, something personal to you, that's different if they know you, but...
Yeah. But, like, even that, like, the racism isn't just between, like, white people and black people. Like, within, like, people of color, like...
there's racism, too.
Yeah, like...
Oh, isn't there always the, North Asia and South Asia?
Yeah, that's, like, a thing in China. Like, everyone, like, just yells at each other because South Asia is so much better than North Asia, and then, like, my parents go off.